Hey guys, welcome back to another edition of the Detour Live. I'm your host Dan Jones, joined as always by four-time national road champion Johnny Giro, Olympic gold medalist Scotty McGrory, and fellas, on a scale of 1 to 10, how bloody excited are you as a viewer gearing up for tonight's stage of the Giro? I'll start with you, Iffy.
11.
Sitting around 11, Scooter?
Yeah, it'll be good. But as always in these sorts of stages, same as cobble stages in the Tour de France, I still have a spare of thought for all of the organisation of each of the teams and the nervousness going into these events, knowing that it could be one flat tyre, one crash. That could happen on any stage, I get that. But
wasn't the question?
Boring.
Wasn't the question? How excited are you? Don't bring it down. Lift it up.
No, but I would say, I thought that's what you asked me to do, to come on here to do that.
Yeah. No, we do difference of opinion.
Hey, you do it well. You do it well.
Yeah, thank you, John. Thank you.
But it's going to be epic. It is going to be absolutely epic. And as you said, Scotty, spare a team for all the support staff and so forth, because we caught up with Matt White earlier today. It's obviously a big day, and we wanted to give him a clear run, particularly if he was heading to the start. There was a bit of a nervous energy. So we might as well rip in straight into the interview with Whitey. It's in two parts, and we'll dissect it all and look into the crystal ball and see if we can predict what's going to happen on a day that will be full of carnage. So here's Matt White earlier. We're joined again by Matt White. Whitey, without sounding like spelling out the bleeding obvious, it's a pretty important and big stage of the Giro today, mate.
Yeah, it is. It's one we've all been waiting for, and probably waiting for it to finish. It's one of those stages. It's gonna define this tour. There's no way that in 10 hours time that the general classifications are going to look the same. And I think every team's hoping they're on the better side of Lady Luck this afternoon.
Yeah, exactly, Whitey. I just wrote a story for the famous Geelong Addy for tomorrow, and I just said exactly that. No, we might know who's going to win this tour. We won't know who's going to win this tour after today, but there will be at least one, and I reckon it'll be more GC contenders who will lose their chance at the tour today, and that's what I don't like about it. I saw really nice quotes from Simon Yates saying he doesn't feel that there's a place for this type of stages in a Grand Tour, and I agree with him. As much as a fan, I love it. I'm looking forward to tonight. It is going to be so exciting. But as a rider or a DS, I would be absolutely shitting myself.
I think Johnny, that there has been stages like this in the past. There's been Roubaix stages, and you look at the epic photos and pictures and images that came from cycling with Fausto Coppi and through that era with those guys. They had no choice. They had to ride over passes in the dirt. But the difference is the guys and the technology we have now, they're going so fast compared to even 15, 20 years ago. So let alone 40 years ago. And I think no one likes to lose a Grand Tour with bad luck. And I think that's the difference. But look, it is what it is. We've known the situation for a long time, but we've paid a lot of attention to this stage. We've in the details, and that's all we can do. We can prepare as good as we can. We took the riders on the way into the race to ride this section, so they're confident in their equipment, they're confident in their tyre pressure, and they know what they're in for. We spent 6 hours yesterday in the car having a look at the final product, and it had even improved since we saw it 10 days ago. So we know what we're in for, and now hopefully the boys can let the legs do the talking and support Simon as best they can today, and still be in the hunt for the GC in 10 hours' time.
Johnny? Well, that was a question I was going to ask you, because when we spoke to you 2 days ago, you were actually going to have a look at it. So what condition is the road in? Because as everyone knows, this is not the Strada Bianca roads, where Cadell won a great stage in 2010, but that was on roads that they normally use for Strada Bianca. This seems to be a lot worse.
No, it definitely is. It definitely is. They've spent some time and money with putting more sand and gravel on the course and sweeping it in some sections and rolling it in some sections. But that epic stage that Cadell won, it was epic in a different way. It was torrential rain and it made it quite boggy. But I actually would prefer that it would rain today. I don't think there's much chance, because it's going to be a dust storm out there today. And we were out there yesterday, and we looked behind just from one car and how much dust was kicking up from just our car. So you put 40 cars on that circuit with 170 bike riders, and there's not going to be too much vision in between the cars today. And also, at the end of the day, the boys are sucking in a lot of crap in their lungs at threshold, and it's going to be a tricky day. But it is what it is, mate. It is what it is.
Well, it's funny you say that, because do you think some teams could run into the danger of overthinking it? Like, as you said, you've done the prep, you've got all the equipment sorted, and essentially whatever happens, happens. Whereas if you overthink it, overstress, that could lead to bad decisions.
For sure, Dan. I think that tension's good, but nerves are not. And I think that anyone who thinks that they're going into this stage relaxed is kidding themselves. And because it doesn't matter who you are, how good a bike handling skills that you've got, there's always going to be an element of luck, because you are going to have to sit on people. There'll be people in front of you, and you have no control over what happens to them, and you can be directly affected. But it's all about mitigating risk, and that involves riding in good position into these sections. We've got a very good plan in place with spare wheels and bikes and bottles, and the guys know what they're in for, and they had a good look. We downloaded a video, which we put a GoPro on the car yesterday and filmed it, and the guys have scrolled through that at their own will overnight or this morning, and they've got a really fresh, clear picture of what they're in for today. Look, it ain't gonna look like that when you put 160 bike riders fighting in for sections, but they know what those run-ins like, and they know what they're in for.
That was part one of the interview. Part two, we take a bit more of a deep dive into the actual race route itself. So let's have a look at the stage parkour. Now, I saw on Cycling News, I think they might have quoted you, that the first sector is going to be like Arenberg.
It will be, mate. But the only difference is for the Arenberg is half the bunch is already gone. Whereas I think this first section, unless it's very, very aggressive start, I think the whole bunch will arrive pretty much at that first sector. So it will be just as important as the Arenberg. And it is a slight downhill entry, and the speeds that they're going to be going on that first section will be mind-boggling, because it is very fast and flowing. And then there's some tricky parts at the end of that first sector.
Now, car position, obviously, on this stage is going to be crucial. You'll be on position, 9 or so in the convoy?
Yeah.
Now, I've heard stories in the past from mates that have done the dodgy, and just before they get to that section, they've cut in front of cars at Roubaix or whatever. I mean, is there going to be penalties if teams try and play funny buggers just before that first section?
Look, mate, I think there's some different directors. Some of those old school directors, they might try to pull those shenanigans off in Roubaix or Flanders, but I think it'll be quite hard knowing the run-in to do that. And at the end of the day, we're car 9, but even car 1, you might have a little bit of an advantage on the first section, but at the end of the day, they are not going to be able to let cars pass riders on that first sector, because it's too narrow, too dangerous. So at the end of the day, every car is going to be stuck behind the last rider on that section, or the last few riders. It's only when we get off that section that will be a bit of a mad dash to get into position for the second one. And then by halfway through the second sector, you see how hilly it is. The bunch will be blown to pieces. So I don't think it'll be too stressful after that, but it'll be a nervous 10 or 15 minutes on the approach for everyone involved. But I think as the sectors go on, it'll be a natural selection, just because of the brutality of some of these sectors.
And when it does blow to bits, will you be able to make up position in the convoy coming into the second or the third and the fourth sector? Because I mean, that's on a bloody D.
Yeah, I don't. Well, the riders will be doing about 70 kilometers an hour down there. It's a very, very, and they hot mix the road in the last 10 days there. It's a very, very fast last sector going into the third sector. And it depends how barraged you are back. There's only so fast you can go, and you're looking after the safety of yourself as well. So, I think it doesn't matter what car you're in. If you have bad luck at the wrong time, you're in trouble. It's as simple as that. And that extra 30 seconds of driving, that's not going to be the difference. It's going to be where that mishap happens and the availability of that rider to get a bike, get a wheel, get serviced. And that's involved with luck because no one can predict punctures or crashes.
Yeah. As I said earlier, I'm not a fan of it, but I'm so looking forward to tonight. So it's a contradiction. Matter of fact, I'd love to be a fly on the wall. I'd love to be in that team car. But hopefully, not too much dust. The helicopter shots can show us that other race, between between the convoy cars. Because you look at the end of that first bit of gravel, it's only about 7 or 8K. To the next section of gravel. So you guys have to get past as many riders and whatever as you can. And that's if you haven't had to stop for one of your guys or even put you further back. So it's just going to be a wonderful scenario tonight. But going back to that point, I love this. And for a one-day classic, it's sensational for Strada Bianca or Paris-Roubaix.
Definitely.
They're with riders who are, entering that, knowing what's coming up, and that's why they're doing it. They're normally specialists, or they're there to support a specialist, so that's what they're all for. This is not. This is a grand tour. So some of those little Colombians and the small climbers, even Yatesy, they're not even designed to do this sort of racing. So it just makes it hard.
Yeah, it does. But some guys are confident in their skills. Some guys are confident in their skills, and Simon is confident of his skills. And I think it was a big bonus for us to take him on the course 10 days ago and have a look for himself of what these sections were like. And the good thing is the sections were worse 10 days ago than they are now. So going in with a bit of apprehension is good, because I think if you go in being too confident into these sections, that can backfire on you. And like I said, we're confident in our equipment. We're confident in the preparation we've done, and now let's get racing.
Just of the GC guys, who do you think is going to perform the best out of the sort of top bracket, and who do you think is going to struggle the most?
Oh, look, I think Bernal certainly showed that he's in form, great form in general, and then the ride he did in Strada Bianca this year shows that he can handle himself on the dirt. Now he comes from a mountain bike background, so. There's no hiding that he is incredibly skilled on this sort of terrain. Evan Napoul also has a lot of good skills. He hasn't been in the sport though so long, but he knows how to handle his bike in a very, very good way. And who's going to struggle? There's some guys. I'm not going to point out guys who would struggle today. I know who they are, but they probably wouldn't have slept so well last night. But
you wouldn't be talking about Dan Martin, would you? No, of course not.
There's a group of guys. There's a group of guys there that they wouldn't have slept so well last night, and they'll be a little bit like this going into the first sector, I reckon.
For sure.
But I don't think there'd be anyone who's not nervous. I mean, there'll be some who are absolutely, as you say, shitting themselves, but. Yeah, but even the ones who are excited and think this is their opportunity, they'll be nervous because, as you said, puncture at the wrong time, anything can happen. So everyone's going to be nervous.
And I think the difference also between this and a classic is, if some of the big boys, your Garners or your Cavagnas or your specialists, your classics guys, they've also got to be very, very careful with how they approach the stage. Because at the end of the day, if they rip a sector, a new one, well, then what are they doing to their leader? Where is their leader when you are doing that? So it's whereas in Paris-Roubaix or Tour of Flanders, it's a team of specialists. You know what your leader's capable of. That's why he's there. So here we, like you said before, we've got a variety of leaders with a variety of skill sets, and those big guys, a lot of those teams won't be riding aggressive because they'll be more riding in a defensive sort of style to make sure their leader gets through safe and sound, especially in those early sections.
Now, we all know that Yatesy does like to putt round at the back at times, but obviously you said earlier it's all about positioning, so you'd expect him to be right up the front in good position, particularly with those dirt sectors.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if you saw the Australian road champion dropping him off quite close to the front there inside the last 500 metres, mate.
So Cam's feeling good then?
Yeah, Cam's back, mate. I reckon he's probably at 85% at the moment, and the rolls we've got him doing today are early in the race and through into that first section, and hopefully with another 40. We've got a flat day tomorrow. We've got a heavy day tomorrow, then a flat day, and I think in 48 hours time, Cam should be nearly 100%. Which is, we've dodged a big bullet there because it's pretty hard to recover on a Grand Tour, and he has had the ability there to recover. And I think if anything, and it might sound strange, that it might work in a positive for us in the back end of this race because of his illness. He actually hasn't been able to go deep. He's had to ride conservative because he didn't want to cook himself when he was ill. And so while everyone else has had this very, very hectic first 10 days, we left Cam out of the picture altogether. We said we didn't include him in any team meetings. We didn't give him any roles to do. We just said, get through, survive the best way you can. And we're lucky enough that he's been able to do that. And I'm sure he's going to be a great asset to us in the back end of this race.
As we said, he's a lot tougher than Dan Jones. We know that.
Oh, right, eh? Now, before we let you go, Whitey, it looks like you got a nice hotel there, mate. You got down lights. Looks like a king-size bed.
Yeah, it's the Perugia Park sparring hotel, Judge. We've had 2 days here. Yeah, where we used to spar on the balcony. It's the big concrete block on the side of the highway. It's the one.
Yeah. And what was the food like, mate?
Not a big fan of carpet everywhere. Not with my asthma, but hey, beggars can't be choosers.
But good tucker.
Standard, mate. Standard. Very, very good tucker. Yeah.
Yep. Well, you'll need plenty of energy today, mate, and we wish you all the best. It's going to be, as John said, fascinating on the TV, and we hope it's a safe journey. And Yates right up at the pointy end. Yeah,
cheers, mate. There was certainly no need for any coffees before the start. Not for me, anyway.
or those caffeine chewies, mate. I don't think you'll need them today. I
might have a chamomile or two.
Yeah, enjoy, mate. Good luck.
Good on you, Whitey. Thanks, bud.
It was Matthew White, and always a great chat. He's definitely a character. Just on those caffeine chewies, they used to have these chewies in the bag there that I think they gave them to the snipers in like the army, and they were just loaded with caffeine. And some boring stages, you could literally, you get to 80k to go, and your headed starting on. You pop one of those, and you're literally like, awesome. But he won't be needing those today. What are your thoughts, Scooter, on Whitey's insights there?
Well, there's heaps of good stuff there, isn't there? The first thing I actually heard, though, was after John berating me for saying how good the stage is going to be, but then actually the concern that I have for all the staff and the teams and the team directors.
I agree with you, mate. I agree with you. But it wasn't
and you said exactly fake. What I said in that interview.
It's like, so fake.
Unbelievable. Mindless. But remember the other day I mentioned going into the rest day, and Whitey backed it up then as well. I mentioned Cam Meyer saying that, if he's able to continue on physically because he's been sick, he may not actually really completely hammer his muscles to 100%. So he might only be able to reach 90%, even though he'll feel terrible as he obviously did. But that meant that if he can get through that, get a few days of recovery, he can bounce back because he hasn't really physically gone.
Whitey just proved that you know what you're talking about.
That was good. He backed me up there. You did. But yeah, look, isn't it interesting that that we throw these stages in, and of course we do love it. As a spectacle, this is going to be amazing. But there are going to be losers. There are going to be lots of losers. It won't be one guy on GC that loses out. No. I think there's going to be multiple. And they've got a choice of what roads within a certain extent. They've got a choice of which roads they are going to go to. This is the same finish town as that stage that Cadell won in the mud back in 2010. Different roads in the lead up to it, but it's the same finish town. But to start it with a dirt section that's going to go downhill, that just sounds like a recipe for disaster, doesn't it? And if you started with an uphill at least, split the bunch, then have a downhill, but that first sector, it's going to be carnage. You can't expect it to be anything but.
I've got a good question for you, John. What is the bar, right, for how many GC riders, say it causes carnage and 4 GC riders lose contention, what is the limit before the riders' union step in and say, hey, that's it, unacceptable, we're going to protest tomorrow morning? So if 1 or 2 GC riders flop off, but what do you reckon would be the limit before they clamp down?
Maybe it depends who they are. Or maybe if Burnell loses the tour tomorrow, or say if Nibley was up there and it was Nibley, that would probably be enough. But it's an interesting question. I don't know that's a number. I just think the carnage itself, if they get through this, it's only one or two, and it's not carnage, fine. But this stage is setting itself up to be very dangerous as well. You're going to have bike riders all over the place. When you got no vision, as Whitey said, they had one car and they couldn't see. They're going to have 30 cars there, probably 40 cars. Dust everywhere, riders puncturing, trying to come back through convoy of cars. It's a recipe for for disaster. There could be a serious accident. I mean, we're all excited about it. Everyone's talking about it, and they'll probably have record viewers. Oh, gee, I just hope we get through it in some
and I hope we're
sense of
overestimating
safety.
Johnny. I hope we're saying it's going to be more dangerous than it really is. Hopefully, it's not quite as dangerous as that. But,
I hope it's just as dangerous as that as a viewer.
Yeah.
I'm only joking, Scotty.
Remember the stage to I forget what it was in Belgium a few years ago, and it was wet roads and super slippery. And got us. And I remember Cancellara in the yellow jersey went to the front and just said, "Guys, no, we're going to just neutralise this." And they stopped the race and then rode slow towards the end. I think Tor Hushoff was one of the riders who were like, "Hang on, these are just the conditions. I want to go." But everyone else was saying, "No, we're not going to go."
There was something oil on the road or something too. I remember someone fell off the most ridiculous fashion. So I can remember doing a Roubaix stage in the Tour de France in the Sky car when Shane Sutton was with Sky, so I've jumped in the passenger seat with him, and we were behind the brakes. It was sensational, but they had Jags at the time. The problem with the Jag was it was too low, and so with the Roubaix cobbles, they're sunk in the wheel marks, and the high part is it. So he couldn't drive the normal like all the other cars. He had to drive to one side. I'm sitting there, and my mirror is just missing people by millimeters. And in the end, I'm putting the window. I'm yelling out at people. I said, "You're going to kill someone." I said, "Oh well, they're going to have to get out of the way." Oh, Jesus. Wow, what a day. What a day.
Hey, guys, before we go any further, I reckon we should have a quick word from our great mates at BikeExchange.
Look at this bike. You think it's just a bike, right? But it's not. It's a bike 374 people are looking at. This guy, this girl, them, all looking at it. People from here, there, and wherever this is. People that are looking for a bike. Or just a piece of it. Amateurs, semi-amateurs, and pro-amateurs. This guy wants this bike, but with this crank and these bars. This could be the perfect match. But not this one. This girl has a bike to sell, and thousands of people might purchase it. Eyes on Bikes help grow small businesses. His, hers, yours, and the latest data and insights help those businesses keep moving. We are the world's #1 bike marketplace, with over 500,000 products and 900 brands, where buyers and sellers are brought together in a place where a bike is never just a bike. BikeExchange, where the world buys, sells, learns, and rides.
Thanks again to our great mates at BikeExchange. Now, Scooter, you saw an interesting interview with Cadell and Bradley Wiggins on Eurosport. What were some of the insights Cadell gave? Because obviously he had the victory in 2010.
Yeah, he did. So these iconic images in the rainbow jersey, world champion, winning on the dirt roads, covered in mud, and the typical subdued celebration from Cadell, even though he did say to Brad that this is one of his all-time greatest memories within cycling. Obviously, winning the World Championships, winning the Tour de France, but then this stage win at the Giro. And remember, he started with Italian teams, so his first full contract was with the great Mapei team. But before he went to Mapei, he rode as a stagiaire in a couple of invitational races with the Saeco team, they were riding Cannondale bikes, and he was on Cannondale with the mountain bike team as well. That was the connection there. And he said that this was the stage that he remembers of a lot of the stages that he'd been involved in and the wins. But you could see how dirty, like muddy they were. He also, we mentioned it from Whitey just about Egan Bernal and his mountain bike background, not as deep a mountain bike background as what Cadell had, because he was racing and winning World Cups for a number of years and going to the Olympic Games. But he said when he woke up that morning and it was raining, and he said he was perhaps the only rider in the peloton that was happy that it was raining, because he said he was going to be in his element. And he said he just really did enjoy that day. And he thinks he was probably the only rider in the peloton that did enjoy it. And of course, he went on to win the stage. So maybe he does forget some of the sections in the middle where it was actually really shitty and miserable, and maybe he had some close calls. But he said that he really did enjoy that day. He enjoyed that it was wet. And that's the skills that these guys bring. And it wasn't just let's go and do a few recce's of the circuit and, try a couple of dirt roads. No, they're just different. And I get that now doing a lot more mountain biking, going the other way. And I did some mountain bike racing in the early 90s, but nothing like what these guys did. And I'm used to my tyres sticking to the road, whereas these guys, they're okay with a bit of movement around the corner. That's sort of just natural. And it takes years and years of development and understanding of the bike and the dynamics and the road surface. And that's what Cadell took into that stage. So it wasn't just, you can see he wasn't that far in front of second, third place, but just every corner, every little downhill, he was able to just save a little bit more energy than everybody else that wasn't as expert in those conditions as he was. And that's why he ended up coming away with the win. So it was really good to hear from him. He was very relaxed, actually, talking to Brad Wiggins. Two very different people then and now, because Brad's, I don't know, he's evolved into a couple of different versions of himself. And he's certainly a bit of a style meister now. Cadell in that interview did look like he just got out of bed. Looked a little bit dishevelled. But yeah, he was certainly up and about and a lot more relaxed than some of the times that we interviewed with him down at the Tour de France when he was under a lot of stress. Certainly the interviews you hear of him now after racing, he's a lot more relaxed and at peace with himself.
Do you find with the race organisers like the Giro, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. If you do a course that's boring, people go, "Oh, the sport's boring, you need to mix it up," or whatever. But when you do a stage like this, people go, "Oh, hang on, you've crossed the line. It's too hard." Like obviously the fans, but is it a fine line to get the balance right?
Oh, for sure. I mean, you couldn't call this Giro boring. It's been fantastic bike race all the way, and they haven't had to put dirt in to do that. Although they had a dirt finish a couple of days ago, which was fantastic. I just think they've just tipped the balance a little bit too far the other way. 4 sections is maybe a tad too much, but maybe the last 2 sections would have been plenty. Pretty long sections, only a 13 kilometres section. It's not like just whacking in a little section of pave that goes for 2K. There's just some serious sections. You've got 9K, what's it, 13K, there you go, 9K, 7K, 5K is the shortest piece, and that's getting towards the finish, so it'll be on. Look, we're whinging, but we're all excited to watch it. So,
absolutely.
I'm not sure. It is a fine line. I'll tell you after the finish.
But is the other issue the fact that it's not traditionally raced on this gravel either? Like, weren't they laying down new bits of gravel? And as Whitey said, it's not wet, so it's going to be a dust bowl. And those images from Cadell when it was wet, it's going to be a different beast altogether, because dust, I don't know, obviously I've never ridden, but dust would be worse than the mud, wouldn't it?
It's different.
Well,
I prefer the dust to the mud, actually.
Really?
It can be as slippery. So that's the other challenge. Is, you think, it's dry, so it's not as slippery. But if it's really fine and very dusty, then and you're going to go faster then as well, because obviously if it's wet, you need to slow down. Whereas, if the roads aren't so bad and they're heavily packed, packed down really well, then some of these are just tracks through the vineyards. I mean,
with the Strada Bianca, if they had used those roads, which you think they could have done, I mean, we're right in that region, as you say. Scooter, the Finnish town is the Finnish town of where Cadell won the race, 2010. So all those roads are there, but we're coming in from a different direction, I guess, so that's why they couldn't use them. But proof will be in the pudding.
Scooter,
Sorry, Dan. What was also interesting about Cadell in that Giro 2010. So the year before he won the Tour de France, but he won that stage. He had a few other good stage placings. He finished 5th overall, but he won the points classification, which
that's right.
The points classification, which in some of those Grand Tours, other than the Tour de France, so sometimes in the Giro and in the Vuelta, there are so many difficult stages that it's actually the GC guys and the climbers that are in those stage results more often than the sprinters. And that particular year, Cadell won the points class.
And I think
it was an
I think
all
Richie,
Aussie podium, except
yeah,
for the winner.
Richie finished fifth, I think, seventh in that tour, and Lloydie was won the King of the Mountains.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Ivan Basso, overall winner back then.
Even Basso won the race. Yeah.
Now, Scooter, what I was going to ask you is Whitey couldn't answer of the GC guys who are going to suffer and might struggle today. Who do you think?
Oh, question me that notice. Let me think. Well, you've already mentioned
Dan Martin.
Dan Martin, yeah. I think Hugh Carthy. I'm not sure what he's like. He just seems a bit gainly and a bit awkward. So I'm not, and he's tall as well. So the taller you are on these sorts of roads, leverage and angles. We'll see how he goes on this stage. Not sure about Vlasov. I think Vlasov might be a bit nervous. But look, Bernal mentioned he has a mountain bike background. He finished second and third at the Under-19 World Mountain Bike Championships in 2014 and 2015. So it's juniors. It's a long time ago, but he's only 24, so it's probably not that long ago. But if he's good enough to run in the medals 2 years in a row, he's a good bike handler on the dirt.
Oh, he ran third in Strada Bianca this year. So
yeah. So he'll be the one that. But as White is right, it only takes one person to get in front of him before the dirt crash, and then they all go down.
Yeah.
And it's going to be honestly leading up to. Perhaps even more so than the Arnberg Forest, I think, because that comes. It's still a long way from the finish. Everyone's desperate to get there, but the race at Roubaix has been whittled down a little bit by the time they get to Arnberg. Whereas this is the entire peloton, and you've got guys in this race that they want to just do the job and get out of the way. So the 15 Ks leading towards that first section is going to be so good to watch. It's going to be really
that map up again, Dan, because that's what I'm. There's this. You look at that hill just before, about 10K to go, is it? Yeah, 84, 90. Yeah, 8K to go. That will be unbelievable. The whole field.
All right. We'll see the one before it, Johnny. See the step up climb. I reckon they'll be going that fast that they'll hit that double jump. And I reckon they won't land until the back end of the first bit of dirt.
All right, I've got a question for you. They're Cat 3s, right? So obviously punchy sort of climbers, but how would a Peter Sagan go today?
Should be good.
Too difficult? Or do you reckon he'll just light it up and just go for broke?
No. He's a mountain biker as well, remember. He rode the last Olympics in the mountain bike. So you think he'd go really well. He's a bike handler. You think this is suiting down to the ground.
Yeah, it comes down to those climbs, doesn't it, Johnny? Like the last one in particular, that's it's a Cat 3, yeah, but it looks like a fairly decent sort of climb. And
he wouldn't hold
Peter
Bernal
Sagan 4 years ago, no problem. Yeah. I think Sagan 4 years ago, no problems. Whereas now, don't know. The other day, you haven't mentioned. I don't know if you want to go back on to stage 10, which was an absolute cracker the day before the rest day, where Peter got his win. And the team just set it up so incredibly well. We basically predicted it, didn't we? What was going to happen. It kind of unfolded that way. Yep. And Bora put the hammer down on the two climbs, middle of the stage, popped out Dylan Groenewegen and Tim Malia. But there was still Viviani, there's still Gaviria was still there. And Peter said after that stage that, they didn't get rid of all of the sprinters. There was still those other couple there. But I reckon Peter was going, about as hard as his team could without getting rid of him as well. I don't think he was that comfortable
fantastic.
up there either.
I see Mulier's withdrawn from the race now.
Oh, I didn't see that. Has he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that was a cracker. That was such a good stage. We saw a few Aussies at the end there too as well. Michael Storer and Chris Hamilton, who I ride with when he's back in Bendigo in summer. Those boys were up there for DSM, driving it, trying to keep it all together. And and the intermediate sprint. I don't know anyone that didn't see the intermediate sprints coming towards the finish. That was a big duel between Remco Evenepoel and Egan Bernal. It was fascinating actually watching the lead outs and seeing these guys whether they could or couldn't hold the wheel and then trying to sprint at the end. It was for someone that had a bit of speed and power, and you're a good finisher too, John. I thought that was quite comical and very entertaining.
That was one of the most the funniest things I've seen in a Grand Tour. And at one stage there, when Garner ripped off to the front with Bernal right in his wheel, Evenepoel, I didn't think he was going to be able to close that gap. It just for a minute there, look, I don't think he's going to close this. But then
it took about a minute. That's how long the sprint took.
It did take that long. Yeah. It was fascinating. Yeah.
Cue the Benny Hill music.
Back to Peter Sagan. I think the best thing about him is his tone never changes in interviews. Win, lose or draw, it's always the same. well, we won today. And then if he's lost, he's like, well, who cares? Shit happens. Like, it's always the same.
Pitch a bird on the bum and away you go. Yeah, it's all good. Yeah.
All right, we've got a couple of comments. Obviously, Wendy Superfan. Hi, Dan. Hi, John. Hi, Matt. Obviously, I should have shown this earlier. Best of luck for Yatesy today. Richard, it's going to be hard for the riders and teams, which should be an epic stage to watch from your armchair. Jenny says, good evening, guys. Really looking forward to tonight's stage. Gary Tilley says, happy birthday for yesterday. Iffy, how was your birthday, mate?
Yes.
Very good. Thanks, Gary. Thanks, fellas. Yes, had all the family around for pizzas and a couple of nice glasses of red. Very
What's your go-to pizza, Johnny? You'd be a capricciosa guy.
Yeah, nice and hot capricciosa. I'm also a bit of a seafood fan, so a bit of that. Yeah,
the marinara catch.
Yeah.
No, it's too risky.
That would have brought a few people undone, I reckon.
I reckon I remember one Tour de France where you got bitten by a pizza at Pau for those 3 days afterwards.
Yes, anyway, I do remember that. Yeah,
people are probably having dinner, so we won't go there.
One bad muscle.
Peter Varley says, so appreciate Whitey taking time each day to share his wisdom. Awesome. David says, any possibility of all GC teams just take it super easy because it seems so dangerous, or will at least one team with a GC threat roll the dice and force everyone to ride? What do you think, Scotty?
It would, okay, so if there was some kind of truce like that, then it would only take one other team, maybe not even a GC team, to light it up, and then everyone's just going to have to follow. So I don't think that would be possible. I think the only scenario where things get cancelled or neutralised is mass pile-ups, carnage. If you've got multiple GC guys on the road and everyone's just saying this is just crazy. And we've seen that in the mountains before. We've seen that on really tricky descents, neutralising descents, and dangerous conditions. But we haven't seen how they've tackled it. So this is really a bit of a litmus test, isn't it? Hey, maybe it won't be that bad. Maybe it will be just a couple of crashes. Remember when Chris Froome crashed out of the Tour de France on the cobble stage, he crashed before the cobbles. He didn't even get to the cobbles to crash on them. So he crashed on the way there. So, you can't blame the cobbles for Froome being, crashed out of the race. So
I've got a new segment idea for you, John. Like, how I always talk about, how I don't ride. But if I did, it's like, what would Dan do? And I'll tell you what I would do. If I was nervous about these sort of cobble and the dirt sections, just before that first sector, I'd get a mate to drop a little bit of oil on the road about 20 minutes before the bunch come through, and then I'd protest. I'd say, guys, sorry, too dangerous conditions, neutralise it, do something beforehand so you don't have to ride it.
Tax. Remember there were tax on the road? It was another Cadell.
Just do something. Do something. Try anything.
I'm just agreeing with one thing you did say just before, Dan, about the pizza, the marinara pizza being too risky. I did have a bit of leftover marinara pizza just before we went to the show, and I'm in a bit of trouble, actually.
You're an idiot.
I might make it to the end of the show.
Leftover from yesterday. Seafood leftover from it. Was it in the fridge at least?
Yeah, it was in the fridge. So
it doesn't matter.
But it's coming back to bite me.
Take the camera with you. If you got to run, take the camera with you. Just make sure.
I'm out in the back office, my little studio here, and it's a good thing no one else is in the room.
Kingo says more risky racing on the gravel or John's pizza topping choice.
I
think we've answered that. All right. Well, before we have to go, one other interesting little tidbit you had, John, was there was a bit of biffo in the papers between Eddie Merckx and Aussie's own Caleb Ewan.
Yeah, very interestingly. So Eddie writes for the major Het Nieuwsblad newspaper, and he was scathing. He really gave a big serve to Caleb when Caleb had to withdraw the other day, saying that he disrespected the race, disrespected the jersey, because he was in the sprinter's jersey, by leaving. So he really got into him. And a mate of both of ours who's on the Lotto team, I was texting back and forth, and I said to him, Eddie gave it to Caleb. He said, Caleb has spoken to him and they've sorted it all out. And he went on to say, Caleb didn't just withdraw. He had a crook knee, and he was very concerned with the Tour de France coming up. There's no way he wanted to stop. He felt he could win 2 more stages, so he was always going through to stage 13, which the organisers knew. They were happy with him coming to race up to that because big mountain stages after stage 13, no use him staying on. But he and Eddie had a phone call, and he pleaded his case, and Eddie has sort of apologised to him. Whether he's done that on the paper yet, I don't know.
Should take some swingers to ring Eddie. I'd be nervous.
Oh,
imagine going, hey, Eddie, I just read that article. What are you doing, mate? Hey, come on, I'm the greatest ever. Take it.
But Eddie does love to stir the pot. You know, he doesn't sit back as the grand champion in the past and just he loves to serve them in. You know, they love his column. He serves them out. No worries.
Yeah. No,
just imagine that. Caleb, he should have done it face to face, so he could have, just, hey, Moses, what are you on about?
All right, who's your sorry, Scotty.
No, but listen to, you may have got this from Whitey, I'm not sure, in a previous episode, but do we know if he has another driver? Because in the stage like this, we talk about how hectic it's going to be. Is he driving the car himself, or which that's what they typically don't do these days? So he's got 2 hands free to communicate.
Well, he did the day before the rest day. What he's doing today, I don't know. I don't think he'd want to be driving today. It would be a pretty busy day, but.
I'd not laugh if you saw Gene Bates with the glasses and the mustache.
Actually, I'll text you now. See if we can answer.
The old music clip, the old wig, mate, the old rocker wig.
Yeah, this big black mullet with dark shades and the mo.
That could work. No, well, hey, I don't know. Maybe they bring whoever's driving the second team car, just put him into the first car. I don't know what they've done, but yeah, but that again, this comes back to that whole point, isn't it? It's you can't just grab anyone and throw them in, and if you did at this stage, whoa, holy crap, that would be incredibly dangerous. So
yeah,
a lot of concern around that too.
All right, who's your tips for the stage? Because we've got to let John go.
No.
Pray to the porcelain.
The waves. It's in waves at the moment. It's all good.
The dead prawns.
This is a hard one to pick. This is a hard one for me to pick. Hard to go. Well, it's a downhill finish, so I wouldn't say Bernal, but I think Bernal's still going to be right there in the mix on that last hill, and maybe he's got it. It's Cat 3, after the dirt, and Ineos doing the job that they will do for him. I think Bernal actually will be up there in the top 3, top 5. But it's another stage that maybe Ulissi can do. He hasn't been that impressive at all this year, but this is the kind of stage I think he could go well in.
I reckon Sagan. I'm going Sagan. He's going to do it.
Yeah.
You watch.
Yeah.
I'm going Evenepoel.
Yeah?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, all right.
Yeah. I think you'll hold him up there. And I can tell you, if Yatesy finishes in the same time as Bernal, it'll be like a stage victory for him.
I was going to say, what's a really good result for them, realistically?
Not lose time. Just to not lose time. Because you get spat, you're going to lose quite a bit of time. So, for Yatesy, he'll just about stay with Bernal. That's what it'll be about.
And if you're Bernal and you have one puncher, how much time do you think you'll lose just from one flat and on that gravel section?
He'll be swapping a bike, I would say. If one of those riders there is a similar size, that'll be the guy who he'll jump straight onto that bike. That's what I reckon will happen.
Yeah. And look, they are car number 1, but as soon as the peloton hits that first section, car number 1 won't matter. They're going to be split all over the place. It's still going to even neutral race support is going to be a challenge to have any of them.
As Roy said, they won't be able to. Car number 1 will not be able to place the last rider in that first dirt section.
And if you're a Colombian from another team, don't give your wheel, because we remember what happened with Simon Clark and Richie Port. 2-minute penalty.
So Whitey's just text. Macca is driving the car. So luckily,
cool.
But he wishes
he has come from the second team car into the front car.
So and Vittoria has just arrived to help out for the rest of the race.
Oh,
So
perfect.
there you go. How many days has that taken? Because he's got to go through the COVID protocols, I guess. That's how long it's taken to get that the replacement for Gene.
Yeah.
It's a bloody challenge in these situations.
Yep.
Hey,
Yep.
you see they've rolled back the throwing the biddens away rule, the UCI.
Yes.
So roll it back. So they've adjusted it. So it's only in the last 50 kilometres on the hills you can throw your biddens away if there are spectators there. If you just throw them to open field within the last 50, then you still get penalised.
And you're not allowed to take their head off. Yeah.
Yeah. Was that all? Was that
You
because
can't
of the
ping 'em.
podcast we did with Dodge, and we gave him a bit of heat?
Exactly.
I think
Yeah.
it went through to the top.
Yeah.
Apparently they played the full podcast.
They thanked the detour. They thanked the detour.
Well, we do it for the fans and all the fans that are getting those biddens in the last 50 Ks. You can thank us. Like, share, subscribe.
Exactly. Yep.
All right. Good stuff, boys. As I always say, Detour Pod, youtube.com/the Detour Podcast. Tell your mates, subscribe, turn on notifications, and enjoy what will be an epic stage. And the coverage should be fantastic on SBS. Looking forward to the commentary from our great mate, Matty Keenan. And we'll check in again tomorrow, fellas. And hopefully, fingers crossed, toes crossed, legs crossed, that Simon Yates is at the pointy end and he doesn't lose any time, even gains time on Bernal. Fingers crossed.
Wow, that'd be nice.
We'll see you tomorrow.